Harvest. Welcome to another episode of the State of the Church podcast, where we're going to talk about the heart of our pastor here with Pastor Terry. We're going to talk about ministry updates for the month, and we're going to talk about the state of the church. Just talk about some culture things and what's happening here in the life of our church that are important for you to know about. So we're going to go ahead and dive right in today. Pastor Terry, how you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Let's go. It's a little sunny outside. It's a little cold.
Sunny but chilly. I got my warm hoodie on.
Yeah.
Nice lining.
Is that a Christmas present? Or is
it actually was a Christmas present.
Yeah, I was going to say, it looks like a new hoodie for you,
from
man.
Kaylee. So.
Let's go, man. So let's dive in. Let's talk a little bit about what the Lord's been doing in your life and what He's teaching you these days. Yeah. And let's, what's just something the Lord's kind of been laying on your heart lately in your own personal life?
Sure. Yeah, always all kinds of things that I'm going through, and so my own personal studies, and of course whatever we're going through in the current series that we're in. But yeah, right. As I've been going through parts of the Old Testament, my attention just keeps being brought back to how God really does care about the intentionality and the details of our worship. I'll explain what I mean. So in Exodus, as the Israelites are brought out of Egypt, God is bringing people right up to, well, first of all, His mountain, right? But then He's about to take them into the Promised Land. But before He ever gets to that part, He actually gives them very specific instructions on how they can build a tabernacle, right? A tent where God would give His presence to be with the people, an actual place. And He goes through and He just lays out such specific details, how they should sew the fabric together for the outside of the tent, how the garb, the robes that the priests would wear, like how those should have such specific details, the colors, and what should be on the chest plate and what should be on the shoulders. And like He just gets so into the specific details of how His people should worship Him. We see it in Leviticus when the Lord lays out to Moses kind of the so many of the laws, but it starts off with the laws of worship, of how they are supposed to be offering sacrifices to Him. In fact, over and over again, He's very specific about how when they bring their offerings of worship, whether it's, for guilt offerings or peace offerings or whatever it is, how they're supposed to bring those offerings that are without blemish. Meaning they're supposed to bring their very best, right? And so it's intentional. Also, you look in the New Testament, 1 Corinthians 13, where the Lord lays out, Paul, through the Lord, lays out just how a church service should be organized, right? How our meetings should be organized. And then in Matthew 25, which we actually talked about through our Winning with Money series, in Matthew 25, we see how the Lord actually expects that we do something with what He has given us, and that we're intentional about it, right? And so it just kind of brings us back to the heart of how, one of our goals here at Harvest is that we would do things with excellence, because we believe that God deserves that. And so one day we're going to be standing before a holy and a righteous God, and quite frankly, we're going to be rewarded and answering for what we've done with what He's given us. And so over the last few weeks, that's just been something that my attention just kind of keeps getting drawn back to over and over again. Just that He cares about the intentionality of our worship. So,
how's that impacted you in the way that you've gone about like your mornings or your rhythms in life? Like, how is that something that just like, I guess, what's the application that you've had in your own life with that?
Yeah, I would say some of my processes, there's quite a few different ways, but for time frame, I would say some of the different processes that I use through my study time, for preparation, for sermon, quite frankly, is a little bit more lengthy than I know what a lot of pastors do. And so every now and then you start to wonder, is all of the steps kind of necessary in that? And it just kind of draws me back to that, no, it really does matter. Like, if I'm going to be bringing the word of the Lord to the people of the Lord, I mean, it really does matter that it's been with intentionality. There's a story about a pastor one time who showed up on Sunday and he said, "Okay, Lord, I'm here for your people. Tell me what it is that you want me to tell your people." And the response that he got was, "Tell the people that you're not prepared." right? Because he didn't prepare. He just showed up with the expectation that, he was just going to speak to the people whatever was on his heart. But we do believe that God meets us in the preparation. And so it just kind of, once again reminds me that those little details and that intentionality really does matter.
Right. Yeah, and how intentional God is, and just like, not everybody's getting up and preaching a sermon.
Right.
But when you see this level of attention to detail that God has and the way that he wants to be worshipped, that he lays out that you just described, but that also comes down to just to understand the level of attention to detail that God has. Like in other parts of Scripture, it says he knows the number of hairs in our head. Right. He knows the number of stars in the sky. Like the level of detail that God has, attention to detail that God has, is just astounding. So when you think about just going through your own life, like the everyday rhythms of your life, God cares about the little things that happen in our lives.
Yeah.
Just as much as the details of how he's worshiped matter to him, the aspects of our life and the things that go happening in our lives matter to him in the same level of detail, right? And so,
how are you worshiping him with your time? How are you worshiping him with your talent? How are you worshiping him with your treasure?
Yeah, so, right. Yeah. Right. Appreciate that. Thank you, Pastor Terry, for just kind of sharing a bit of your heart this week and this month, and as we kind of start out 2025. I can't believe it's 2025 already.
Right.
I just passed my 1-year anniversary here as a pastor, and super excited to be here and just watch what God's doing and to be a part of the story of Harvest North Iowa. And lots to do this year. Lots of things to watch God do. And again, I keep coming back to this. I feel like a broken record, but the idea of being co-laborers with God, and the idea of being a partner with God. God has an agenda. God's agenda is to build his church and to bring reconciliation with his kids. He is, and in that you can even add into that, to bring glory to himself.
Right.
And so he's on a mission, and we get to partner with him on that mission. And so as we start 2025, it's okay, so Lord, what is our part to play in that? Here at our church, here in North Iowa, here in our homes, here in our workplaces. I constantly have that in the back of my mind of all right, Lord, what is my part to play with you, and in what context you've placed me in? And I think that's important, I think, for all of us as we think about entering into this new year, as we set goals. So a lot of folks will sometimes set New Year's resolutions. I'm not a big resolutions guy.
Yeah, me neither.
Just because you do it for 5 minutes and then you're done. But goals, I'm all about goals. Goals you can track. Goals, you break them down to little decisions every day and you reach your goals. And I think it's actually really healthy to be able to set goals with the Lord. In Proverbs it says without vision people perish. And so as leaders, it's our job to be able to set goals for ourselves, and then for the people to cast vision. And for those of you watching or listening at home, in your own life, to cast vision for yourself, to cast vision for your wife, for your husband and your kids, and to decide that together. All right, Lord, where are we going together as a family with the Lord this year in 2025? And so I would encourage you, as one of your pastors here, to even be thinking about that. What are the goals? What is the vision that the Lord has placed on your heart to partner with him in over the course of this year? And write it down. Make a mental note of it at the very least. Share it with your kids and say, hey, kids, this is what we're going to be working on with the Lord this year. And let's work on that together as a family and grow together as we partner, as Paul says, as we co-labor as partners, as Paul says, with the Lord. So, Pastor Terry, appreciate your insights today as we kind of start our conversation now. So let's go ahead and just hit some practical things of ministry updates. And I know Miss Catherine has kind of been working on a bunch of stuff. She gave you some notes here as well. So let's just go ahead and just fill our folks in on what we got coming up.
Yeah, well, there's pretty much always a lot of different things going on. So let me kind of rush through at least a good estimate of some of these. So February 1st, which is the day that our newsletter and podcast should be coming out.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be coming out. And so February 1st, we have Volunteer Appreciation Night.
Let's go.
Yeah, so it'll be here at the church, and an opportunity for us as some of the leaders of the church to just serve our volunteers. And so hopefully
that's you guys.
Into that. That's
right?
you. Yeah, we are.
This is going to be a really special night, and I know that Terry's excited for it. I'm excited for it. Our elders are excited for it. We're going to be doing some really funny things over the course of the night. We're doing this thing called the Harveys, which is kind of a thing that we've never done here before. So I'm a big Office fan, right? So for those of you who maybe watch The Office, they do this. There's this one episode where they call it the Dundie Awards, right? And so it's going to be kind of similar to that, where we're just going to have some fun. It could be, we were talking with some folks, I think it was Ashley or Lindsay or somebody that said, we for sure need to have like one award that says, person who wears the most black, and see who wins that. And so,
Gee, I wonder who might win that
we
one.
we might have a few folks who could compete for that, but
We've got some color going on here.
I'm mostly kidding when I say that. So, but no, it's gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna have some the meal catered, and we just want to love you guys and serve you guys. So make sure you sign up and register for it. This is not. This is like, this is a once-a-year thing, guys. So we'd love to see you there, and we'd love to just celebrate you and celebrate all that God's doing in you and through you, and here at our church. And it's just gonna be a really special night. So make sure you check with Catherine or fill out the registration form and let us know that you're coming, so we can account for all of that. But it's coming up February 1st.
Once a year thing, but hopefully all throughout the year you are feeling how much we really do appreciate you as our volunteers. We can't do this without you, and as I've said in our morning meetings so many times, it's every time someone serves, when they give a handshake or a hug or a smile, every act of service all works towards us being able to bring the gospel to people. And so thank you for doing that and for your time, and I hope to see everybody at that event.
That's right. It's February 1st. Make sure you register.
Yep.
Awesome. What else we got today, Pastor Terry?
Well, Table Songs Retreat is coming
That's right.
up. Got another songwriting retreat in February, and people coming in from all over the country again.
That's right.
Spend some time together, write some worship songs. All glory and praise to the Lord.
That's right. Let's go. So we already got quite a few folks registered already. We got about half the Table Songs team coming out for it, which I'm really excited about. So for those of you who may not know, the Table Songs team is made up of about 16 folks. The core team that makes up the table team is, words are hard this morning. There's 16 folks who make up the core team for Table, and they're all over the country. Some of them are here locally in Iowa, and so others are in Nashville, others in Chicago, and other parts of the country. So we're spread out all over the country. So it's not every day that we get to have our team all together under one roof. So I'm just excited to have a good portion of our team here next month. But then we also have songwriters from all over the country who are already registered to come out. We got folks coming up from Nashville and Indiana and Chicago and a bunch of other places I can't even think of right now. So the reach that Table is doing here as a result of as a ministry of our church is reaching folks all over the country, and is through these worship leaders and songwriters reaching even more people who are involved in the churches of these leaders who are coming out. And so your partnering with Table is continuing to reach people that you may never even meet. We were on a call last night with our team, and one of them was at a conference down in Arkansas, and he was wearing a Table Songs hat. And he had some random person come up to him and be like, "Hey, Table Songs." And there's a worship leader from somewhere down south who's like, "Yeah, we sing their stuff at our church, and like we've been listening to their stuff on Spotify." And just kind of a random encounter that he had at a conference. One of these guys from our team here, Caleb from Table Songs, and he just was like, "Wow, what a blessing that is!" Just like randomly run into somebody who just recognized the logo on a hat and was able to kind of share how Table Songs was an influence in their church and in his life. So there's folks that you may not even know who are already being influenced and impacted by the work that we get to do here through our church and with Table Songs. And so we get to have some of those folks in our house here in February. Really looking forward to that. Catherine will have some updates and announcements here as we start getting a little bit closer, but going to be a really special time. That's going to be February 21st and 22nd. So just be praying for that. I'll ask you as your worship pastor, be praying for those folks and those leaders. Be praying for me, praying for Terry, that we would just lead well and serve well, and we would encourage folks. Because a lot of times you have worship leaders and songwriters coming in who, man, they're just going through stuff at their church. Right. And to be able to come to an event like this is just life-giving for them. And so just be praying that the folks who are coming would just be refreshed and just refilled, just by being able to come and be poured into and spend time with other writers and other worship leaders, and to spend time with myself and some of the other leaders and folks a part of the Table Songs team. So
yeah, last time we had this event here, everybody who was involved, over and over again, I just kept hearing how great of an event it was and how loving our people were, and supportive, and how encouraged they felt through that. So,
yeah, right. We host really well, and so I'm hoping we can continue to love on folks as we go forward that way as well.
And we have a great hope, great heart to impact the church locally and throughout the country. So it's a great opportunity for us to have an impact on other churches all across the country.
That's right.
So
awesome.
Love that.
What else we got coming up, Pastor Jay?
All right, so how about some of our kids stuff? So Bible Builders in February is going through the book of Galatians. Our youth,
Let's go.
yeah, our youth is going through kind of some different worldview issues. Some of the things that the youth have just kind of said, hey, here's some of the things that we run into in school and in the world, and so we're going to go through kind of a whole series of those.
That's great.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that.
I love it. I know there's been like volunteers, aside from just what Catherine's doing, who have been working really, really hard. I know the Cat Myers have been putting a lot of work into Bible Builders, and so just really thankful for them and the work that they're doing, and Ashley. And other folks that, the Jordans, like I can keep listing names, but there's lots of folks who have been doing so much work.
Now we're going to leave
with Bible
somebody
Builders.
out, right?
I know. I feel bad.
There's so many of them.
But just with that, like we still need more volunteers, and so if this is something, if God's given you a heart to serve, and you have a desire to serve here at Harvest, I know that our kids ministry is a foundational ministry for us as a church, and it's really important that we continue to bring excellence to this and to do this well. And so just as your worship pastor, I want to ask you if this is an area that you feel like you have the ability to help with, or even if you're not really fully sure if you have the ability to help with, go talk to Catherine, and she'll be able to kind of help you navigate all of that. And so we definitely have some more room here in kids ministry at Harvest for volunteers and for some more help. So I would ask you to just really prayerfully consider how you can get involved in that, and let's continue to build into the next generation of God's kingdom and God's church here together.
Yeah, that really is an opportunity to have an impact on the church in the next generation.
For sure.
Right? And to have an impact on so many lives. Studies show that most people, when they come to Christ at an early age. Mm-hmm. And so this is a great time to just give them a foundation.
That's right.
So, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
What else we got going on?
So, youth, Bible Builders. Of course, we also have our, for our adults, our small groups that are going on. We have small groups that meet Sundays through Wednesdays. Throughout the week. So that's one of our big tools for discipleship and community and just kind of bringing people together in worship.
Yeah, that's right. Small groups are so important, aren't they?
Oh,
right?
man.
Like, I mean, what we do here Sunday mornings is a church gathered, right?
Right.
But then, like, when we go and do small groups, it's what we call the church scattered, right? And so in the New Testament, in the book of Acts, it talks about how in the mornings, like the body of Christ, the church in Jerusalem would go and meet in the temple courts because that was the only place in town that could fit everybody, right? And they would do that daily, right? To me, that's crazy, right? Like dude, nowadays, like that kind of time to be able to meet that early in the morning, every day, to do church every day in the morning, with everyone. But then at night, they would break up into people's houses and they would go share meals together in individual homes. And then, like when you think about it in that context, like they were meeting morning and night every day as the church, right? That was such a beautiful rhythm and example of community. And so for us as a church here in 2025, like, it's not practical necessarily for us to gather every morning and every night, but what are the intentional rhythms that we're setting for ourselves as part of our culture here at Harvest to do community well? So we want to, like you talked about, excellence. We want to do services with excellence. We want to love people and reach people on Sunday mornings with excellence, but we also want to be doing community with excellence. And so as we kind of been stepping into 2025, we're bringing kind of a fresh intentionality to how we're going about our small groups. And so if you're not plugged into a small group, we really want to encourage you to come talk to me, come talk to Terry, come talk to one of our elders, and just ask, like, hey, how do we get involved? Like, come talk to us. We would love to talk to you about how we can help you get plugged into healthy and, helpful community, to where you can be growing as a Christ follower, but also finding your family in a community and surrounded by people who can come alongside you through all the things of life. Because God designed us to be in community and to do life together, and not on an island. And I know for me, I'm an introvert, and so I like to kind of pick on myself a lot, and people pick on me a lot for kind of being introverted. So like my natural instinct is always I'd rather go sit on my back deck or like sit on my couch and introvert and be away from people. But I also found as a pastor, like, God calls us, first love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, strength, and then love your neighbor as yourself. And you can't love your neighbor unless you're with your neighbor. Yeah. That takes intentionality. So for me, like I've had to learn how to, kind of, step out of my introverted nature and try to be more intentional about like being with people, to love people, and so being in community. And so if you're an introvert and you're listening to this and watching this, you don't have an excuse, man. If I got to do it and can do it, you can do it too. So just small groups. I'm really excited about the small group I'm in right now, and just watching the other small groups around our church, and just God's doing some really beautiful things. And so I would encourage you to get involved in that. And so come ask questions on how you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of my longest connections actually are from small groups. I still have people that reach out to me from a small group that I was in like 8 years ago.
Let's go.
Right? So, connections that were made through that and just doing life together in community. So,
For sure.
yeah.
I love it. Let's go.
All right,
What's
small
next?
groups. Not only small groups, but now we have our men's and women's groups starting back up on Saturday mornings.
Let's go, man.
8:30 to 10.
There will be coffee.
There will be coffee. Yep, there will be coffee. The men and the women will be separate. We do have like some young kids, middle schoolers, or maybe some high schoolers who'll be coming in to watch some of the kids if you need be. But just know that it is some of our youth that is kind of providing that.
Yeah, right.
But the men are going through the first part of the book of Romans. That's actually a J.D. Greer video study we'll provide notes kind of to walk along with that, but it's through the first half of the book of Romans. And then the women are going through a book by Jen Wilkins on the first part of Exodus. We went through the Israelites coming out of Egypt. And so that book there is a fee for, so that has a study guide that goes with it. The women are walking through that just kind of bit by bit. And so great opportunity to come together and to worship and to study and to grow in our faith and relationship with the Lord.
I heard there may also be occasionally breakfast involved in this. So if there's bacon, I'm for sure there. But
are you cooking?
I mean, if you have to.
Yeah.
If I have to.
Yeah.
My pancakes are okay, but my bacon's probably better. But
we can't have just okay pancakes. We'll have to work on that.
Excellence. We want to do everything we do with
excellence.
That's right. Hey, I'm really excited about this. So again, if you're listening and watching, this is something I think would be really beneficial. Just continue to grow in your walk with the Lord. Again, being able to grow in community, with community. And that's, I think, one of the focuses that we're trying to kind of emphasize here as we go into 2025 is the importance of community and being able to grow in community and with community. And so being able to join Saturday mornings here for this next season as we do these studies, I think will be really beneficial for you and your family. So I really encourage you to consider how that might work into your daily and weekly rhythms as a family.
Yeah. I would say last thing we should probably cover, we can't hit it all, but last thing we should probably cover is we are going to be having another membership class, Discover Harvest and Home at Harvest.
Let's go.
So Discover Harvest is kind of the who, what, when, kind of the who we are. Mm-hmm. And then Home at Harvest is really kind of more the membership side of things. Like, hey, we really feel like God has called us to make Harvest our home. And so that will be February 25th. So let Catherine know if you can come to that, get signed up and registered for it.
That'd be great.
We really do believe that God calls people together with different talents, gifts, and abilities to form a church family for the purpose of better worshiping Him. And so if that's kind of the next step in your process, then we'd love to have you join us for that.
Amazing. Yeah, let's go ahead and move into the State of the Church segment here, where we're just going to talk about some culture things. We're going to talk about what's going on, kind of more on the, we'll call it, for lack of a better term, the business end of the church. And I know we got some folks that have been transitioning here. I know last month we were talking about Dick Paulson kind of transitioning after, how many years is it now? There's 7 years?
7 years,
man,
yeah.
Thank God for him, man.
He gave us a year warning, and that year went by fast.
It went by fast. I remember when he kind of told us when I just started, and he was telling us that. And so I'm so thankful for Dick and Luann just for their faithfulness here in our church. I mean, they're still here. They're not going anywhere. Right. But as far as his shepherding and leadership role here in the church, he is officially, as of this past week, kind of stepped down, end of watch, if you will.
Yeah.
And,
although still leading a small group.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Yeah. Like I said, still involved in the church, but just thankful for just his faithfulness in the role of being an elder here for as long as he has been. But again, just celebrating Kurt. He's come on, and I know we're going to probably see some more elders coming on in the days ahead, which I'm just excited to see what the Lord does with. And then I know we talked about a few other folks. We got some more folks kind of helping out and volunteering and more the back end of things here at the church that not everyone sees. You want to kind of fill us in on some of that?
Yeah, I would say probably the biggest one is right around the same time that Dick let us know that he was going to be stepping down as elder and elder board chair. Denise Hiscox, who's our treasurer, also let us know that she was giving us one more year and then would be stepping down as well. And so We are so thankful for her.
Denise is amazing.
Oh my goodness. She has been such a blessing to this church. I mean, especially since I took over as lead pastor. I have spent probably more time with her than anybody who's not on our staff.
Yeah,
and
sure.
So she really is kind of basically a staff person. So she's been a huge blessing. If you see Denise, please give her a hug and a big thank you.
For sure.
Carrie as well, who has given up time with his wife for her to be able to serve in that role. So she steps down. Tim Veach is going to be our treasurer moving forward.
Go.
Yeah, it's a huge blessing. Finding Tim, who's got a background in finance and is able to step in and kind of take over that role. Denise has had some time to teach him and train him up, and so he's already a huge blessing. So he'll be taking that role moving forward.
I love it. That's great. Tim's awesome. Denise is awesome. Super thankful for both of them, and just Denise in particular, I'm really thankful for, because when I came out here, like, I didn't have a place to live at first. I didn't have a house, and so I lived in. She had a trailer at the time that she was so kind and let me live in for like the first month or two that I was here, and so she's kind of a piece of my story here in Clear Lake. So just really thankful for her, and just her and Carrie, and how they've just loved our church and continue to love our church.
Yeah, they're awesome. We love them. It's and they really have been a huge blessing.
For sure.
In other ways too, not just that, but that one has probably been the biggest.
For sure.
So,
For sure.
yeah.
What else we got coming up here? In regards to
so we've had a
church
chance.
business?
Yeah, we've had a chance to recognize Dick and Denise, and then also talk about Kurt and Tim stepping in. I would say, it's kind of the beginning of the year, and there'll be some things that'll be coming out, some updates on finances and that kind of stuff. Giving statements, and we'll give an update to the church. But I would say probably the last thing I really want to focus on, of course, we talked a little bit about like what's important for us in 2025. Community, we talked about, is kind of one of those things, really growing a culture of community in our church. But one of the things I've been talking about a lot is kind of our theme for 2025. I don't pick a theme every year when it comes to, in particular, like my preaching schedule. But as the elders and I have talked, and as we're kind of working through this planning, the theme really has been a theme of next steps. It's actually something that I'd like to say I came up with on my own, but I was having a conversation with Brent and Linda Scarrow, and just in that conversation, that's how this idea kind of came up. And so the theme really is next steps. And so what we're challenging our people to do in 2025 is really just be asking yourselves, hey, what is my next steps? Our hope is that you will be taking the next steps in your faith walk, in your relationship with Christ. And so we've started off the year with a series on winning with money, and we learned that money is a spiritual matter, and God really does care about what we have done with what he has given us. And so there's so many opportunities for that to be an idol in people's lives. And so that's kind of how we start off the year with, what are the next steps? Maybe for you, that is the next step, is giving over your finances to the Lord, or just being intentional about how you manage those things. But maybe for you, your next step in your faith walk is maybe 2025 is the year that you finally put your trust in Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, right? Repenting of your sins, putting your trust and your faith in his work on the cross for the forgiveness of sins. So maybe that's your next step. Maybe your next step is overcoming one or two particular sins that are really prevalent in your life, right? Maybe for you every time somebody starts gossiping, you jump right in, right? Maybe you have a struggle with gossip. Maybe you have a struggle with anger or self-control, or maybe you're just not reading your Bible and not getting closer to the Lord every day, or whatever it might be. But my challenge for you would be to be asking yourself, like, what is my next step in my relationship with the Lord, and then what am I going to do about it, right? So if self-control is my issue, then I'm going to memorize Bible verses about self-control. If money is my idol, or money is the thing that causes me fear and anxiety or worry, then I'm going to take the time weekly, daily, whatever it takes, to be reading and studying scriptures about finances and money. And so throughout 2025, I'm just going to be challenging you. What are your next steps in your faith? We're starting a series in the book of James, and really throughout the Bible, the book of James is kind of that next steps. Like, okay, so many people identify themselves as a Christian as basically just someone who's said a prayer. Like, I said a prayer, yep, I'm a Christian now. And Christianity, or living as a Christian, is actually compared more to like a marriage, right? That's what I give it all to you. My trust, my faith is in you, right? I believe, I trust in you. So that's kind of that wedding day. And then, living as a Christian is like living as a married man or woman, right? It's every day we're trying to know that person more. We're trying to love that person better. We're trying to walk with them through life. And that's what God has called us to do. He's not just a God who is distant and out there somewhere. He's a God who gets into our lives and wants to draw near to us as we draw near to him.
That's right.
And so that's that challenge for 2025. What is your next step in your relationship with the Lord? How are you growing?
Right. Two things come to mind listening to you talk. Talked about attention to detail, how God has this great heart in the details of everything in our personal lives and even in how he's worshipped. Right? But then I also think of that verse in James where it says, don't be just hearers of the word, but be doers of the word. And so that's kind of what we're going to be diving into together here as a church in the days ahead. So thank you, Pastor Terry, for just joining us today. Thank you guys for joining us today and just hanging out with us as we just kind of talk about all the things here at Harvest North Iowa in our church in this season, and just how we get to be co-laborers together with the Lord, and how we get to partner with the Lord together every day as we go about each and every day with God here in the things of our church, but also in our personal lives with our families and in our work and all the things. So just thank you for joining us today, and just remember that you are loved.